You have heard me a lot talk about the Antichrist, the beast system, the false Messiah, the false prophet, etc., and everything that has to do with the prophecy on these end times. But today in particular, on this podcast, I want to talk about the man of sin, the son of perdition that the Bible mentions in 2 Thessalonians 2. So please be ready to be dumbfounded, surprised, and shocked with what I'm going to reveal to you this day. Please join me. The New Radio Church of God and the Plain and Simple Truth Ministries present the Messenger of the Lord with Apostle Yeshua, preaching the gospel of the good news of the kingdom of God and informing you about world events in the light of Bible prophecy and preparing the way for the return of Jesus Christ. And now, ladies and gentlemen, Apostle Yeshua. And greetings, friends. This will be a special edition podcast that is titled The Identity of the Man of Sin and the Son of Perdition Revealed in the Bible Code. So let me tell you about the revelation of the Bible Code. Just recently, on May 27th, I wrote an important article called What is Really Holding Back the Evil Antichrist System from Rearing Its Ugly Head in 2 Thessalonians 2, verse 7, and I also made it a podcast. And last night, while using a computer program called Code Finder, I came across a very interesting matrix from the Bible Code of God Almighty in the book of 1 Samuel. This particular matrix was completely full of the New Testament prophetic events of the book of Revelation, and with very precise accuracy showed all of the events related to the Antichrist, the mark of the beast, the Great Tribulation, in conjunction with the names Barack Obama being described as Satan and the false Messiah, using AI technology to create a hologram of an image that will come out straight from the bottomless pit, which is the image mentioned in Revelation 13:15. The Matrix also found hidden in this book the phrase, will make mass killings of people. Also the words, microchip will bring evil. So what does all of this means? Well, let me give you my prophetic interpretation. As we already know from Bible prophecy, there are two beasts mentioned in Revelation 13. The beast from the sea, representing the Holy Roman Empire of the Vatican and the Catholic Church headed by Pope Francis, which is the false prophet mentioned also in Revelation with titles such as Pontifex Maximus, the Vicar of Christ, etc. A very powerful ecclesiastical and political leader whom Satan the devil, the dragon, gave him his power and his seat and great authority, according to Revelation 13:2. And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things, like claiming to be God on earth, etc. And blasphemies, and power was given unto him by Satan also, to continue on now 42 months. Verse 5. But Satan knows that he has a very short time, so Pope Francis won't last that long, especially with his very precarious health issues and problems that he has been going through right now. Continuing now, verses 6 through 9, and he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle, and them that dwell in heaven, the holy angels, archangels, and the 24 elders. And it was given unto him to make war, a sort of jihad or holy war, using the Muslim world under him. Please refer to my podcast, The Plain and Simple Truth About Islam, with the saints, and to overcome them. And power was given him over all kindreds and tongues, languages, and nations. And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him as a Holy Father, quote unquote, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb, slain from the foundation of the world. If any have an ear, let him or her hear. Listen to this podcast. Pay attention, and you will learn the truth, the plain and simple truth of your Bible. So let's talk about the beast from the earth. Now we must identify the second beast of Revelation 13. The beast from the earth, which is represented by a powerful and influential political leader in the world, in all Masonic and occult circles, who has usually displayed himself to all as a harmless lamb, but speaks as a real devil. Notice, and I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. Have you ever seen Obama's presentations, speeches behind the podium? He's always doing the two-horn sign, what they call the cornuto sign, which is a diabolical sign representing the devil. That's who he worships. Verses 12 through 13 now. And he exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him, the Pope of Rome, and causeth the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, another very famous Pope of Rome, John Paul II, whose deadly wound in the head by a Muslim radical's gun was healed. And he doeth great wonders. The Bible could also mention this, by the way, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of man, in the form of an intercontinental nuclear ballistic missile, or ICBM. Verses 14 through 15, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast. Again, Pope Francis, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword, or a handgun in this case, and did live, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast by means of AI, producing some sort of hologram of Pope John Paul II, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. This too was also corroborated by the Bible code. Verses 16 through 18, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, or incarcerated, to receive a mark by an inserted microchip under the skin, in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark or the name of the beast, or the number of his name, imprinted inside the microchip being implanted on them. Here's wisdom, let him or her that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. His number is 666. 666, according to the King James Version. The many descriptions of the beast. While doing my research for this podcast, or this special edition of the Plain and Simple Truth of your Bible, of who is the man of sin and the son of perdition, I came across various interesting articles making reference to the beast, like this one. The beast, a supercomputer in Belgium, is being used to track every human being on earth. A 3-story computer in Brussels, Belgium, called the Beast, is described as being the brainchild of the European common market. It is said to be using AI for self-programming and is intended to track the buying and selling activities of every person on earth. Additionally, the system is alleged to depend on all biometric systems of ID, implanted microchips, and invisible tattoos on the forehead or back of the hand of each person for identity purposes. Ominously, the tattoo will be of a unique, personalized number composed of 3 entries or 3 digits each. And you can guess what that is. Dr. Henrik Elderman, chief analyst of the Common Market Confederacy in Brussels, has revealed that a computerized restoration plan is already underway to straighten out world chaos. A crisis meeting in early 1974 brought together common market leaders, advisors, and scientists, at which time Dr. Elderman unveiled the Beast. The Beast is a gigantic 3-story computer located in the administrative building of the headquarters of the Common Market. That monster is a self-programming computer that has more than 100 sources distributing entries. Experts in programming have perfected a plan that will handle by computer all of the world's trade. This master plan would imply a system of digital enumeration of each human being of the earth. Thus, the computer will give each inhabitant of the world a number to be used for each purchase or sale, removing the problem of present credit cards. This number will be invisibly tattooed by laser. either on the forehead or on the back of the hand. This would establish a walking credit card system, and the number could be seen only through infrared scanners installed in special verification counters or in business places. Dr. Elderman pointed out that by using 3 entries of 6 digits each, every inhabitant of the world will be given a distinct credit card number. This is why they are now trying to do away with our regular credit cards or CCs and are in the verge of implementing a new digi-currency system, which will start now in July with the U.S. FedNow program. This supercomputer we have discussed here is none other than the first quantum computer invented. Here's another interesting headline that talks about this type of computers. New quantum computer algorithm unlocks the power of atomic level interactions. A novel protocol for quantum computers could reproduce the complex dynamics of quantum materials. Riken researchers have created a hybrid quantum computational algorithm that can efficiently calculate atomic level interactions in complex materials. This new innovation enables the use of smaller quantum computers or conventional ones to study condensed matter physics and quantum chemistry, paving the way for new discoveries in these fields. A quantum computational algorithm that could be used to effectively and very efficiently and accurately calculate atomic level interactions in complex materials has been developed by Riken researchers. It has the potential to bring an unprecedented level of know-how, understanding, and knowledge to condensed matter physics and quantum chemistry. This has been an application of quantum computers first proposed by the brilliant physicist Richard Feynman in 1981. Quantum computers bring the promise of enhanced number crunching power and the ability to crack problems and do tasks that are out of the reach of conventional computers. Kaoru Misuta and co-workers have demonstrated a method to implement time evolution operators unlimited size quantum computers. Qubits, the building blocks of quantum computers, are essentially tiny systems, nanocrystals, or superconducting circuits, for example, governed by the laws of quantum physics. Unlike bits used in conventional computers, which can be either 1 or 0, qubits can have multiple values simultaneously. It is this property of qubits that gives quantum computers their advantage in terms of speed. An unconventional way of computation also requires a new perspective on how to efficiently process data in order to tackle problems too difficult for conventional computers. One notable example of this is the so-called time evolution operator. The time evolution operators are huge grids of numbers like the 666 model that we have mentioned already, that describe the complex behaviors of quantum materials, explained Kaoru Misuta of the Riken Center for Quantum Computing. They're of great importance because they give quantum computers a very easy and very practical application, better understanding quantum chemistry and the physics of solids. One curious fact, even the US President's car is called the Beast, and now we know why. It all started with Skull and Bones member George W. Bush. Bush's presidential state car was nicknamed the Beast, a name that persisted through the presidency of current President Joe Biden. Why I believe that Barack Obama will be the prophesied beast of Revelation 13 to arise as a new world leader and U.S. president once again. I frankly believe that the already very ill and too old and senile current president, Joe Biden, who was chosen as his political mate and vice president in the next election, ex-president Barack Obama, whom he himself served as vice president during Obama's presidency, will eventually collapse or even die prior to 2024, and will then immediately be taken out of the way, as we see mentioned in 2 Thessalonians 2:7. Why do I think this? Well, his possible only opponent right now is Donald Trump, who has a barrage of federal indictments against him and is in deep trouble with the law, will probably end up in federal prison and thus taken out of the way also. The president's current vice president, Kamala Harris, will probably be taken out of the way as well, and that will leave the way clear and unobstructed for ex-president Barack Obama to take the control of the U.S. as a new leader of the world. So just notice this article that I found online. Biden's 2024 Hail Mary named Barack Obama as his running mate. President Joe Biden stumbled across the stage after speaking at the Air Force Academy on Thursday will certainly feature prominently in Republican campaign ads aimed at reinforcing the theme, already knowing at even his most ardent supporters that Biden is too old and frail for another 4 years. The unpopularity of backup Vice President Kamala Harris only aggravates the problem. To bolster his chances for re-election, Biden needs to engage in some out-of-the-box creativity. Biden might rescue his faltering hope of re-election in one seemingly impossible way, asking the highly popular former President Barack Obama to step in to replace Harris on the 2024 ticket. This isn't the first time the idea has been floated. There was talk about just such a ticket as early as 2015, before the Obama-Biden administration had even ended. I think that Obama has been wrongly excluded from discussion about the 2024 race because it is simply assumed that he is constitutionally barred from running as a candidate on the national ticket. That is a mistake. As I will further explain, the Constitution of the United States permits this kind of gambit, and despite the apparent unlikelihood of it happening, both Biden and Obama owe it to the country to consider using it. Biden continues to sink in the polls, with a recent Washington Post ABC poll showing him actually behind Donald Trump, something considered almost unthinkable even before Trump's indictment in New York 3 months ago. Biden has two crucial but connected problems. His age and his Vice President Harris' unpopularity compounds voters' concerns about Biden's stamina and even his survival through a new term. Since Biden shows no sign of willingness to step aside himself, both his low approval ratings and the danger to the country from Trump's potential return to the White House make it imperative that Biden select a running mate who best enhances his chances for re-election. Obama is the only person who could practically guarantee Biden's re-election, whose political qualifications cannot be disputed, and who could replace Harris without alienating a major constituency. While the idea of Obama running as Biden's vice president would at first not appeal to either of them, their concern for the good of the country suggests that they should carefully consider this course. When Biden agreed to sign on as Obama's vice presidential running mate in 2008, Biden was a veteran with decades of service in the Senate, including chairmanships of both the Judiciary and the Foreign Affairs Committees. By contrast, Obama was a junior senator in his first term, but Biden took the subordinate slot. Now, turnabout should be fair play, and Obama should be willing to run in second place along with the senile and incumbent president. Their prior relationship should enable them to come to an acceptable understanding about significant responsibilities for Obama as vice president. Faced with the prospect of a career-ending defeat, partly of her own making, Harris should upset Obama's selection, especially if she is assured of some significant post in the new administration, giving her more additional time and opportunity to burnish her credentials. At first blush, the 22nd Amendment might be thought to preclude Obama from being on the 2024 ticket. That amendment provides no person shall be elected to the office of the president more than twice, emphasis added. While ex-President Barack Obama is precluded from ever running again for election as president, the amendment does not prohibit him from running for any other office, including vice president. Nor does the last sentence of the 12th Amendment disqualify him. It stipulates that no person constitutionally ineligible to the office of president shall be eligible to that of vice president of the United States, emphasis added. For several reasons, this requirement does not expand Obama's inability in any way, shape, or form under the 22nd Amendment to run for election as president. First, the 22nd Amendment was adopted to address a single per-seat problem, Franklin D. Roosevelt's decision to run for re-election to a third and then fourth consecutive term as president. Thus, it bars two-term presidents only from being elected to the office of president. It says nothing about running for and being elected to serve as vice president. Second, the 12th Amendment regulates voting by members of the very influential and Masonic Electoral College. The constitutionally ineligible clause ensures that the electors may not vote for someone who does not meet the qualifications for the presidency set forth in Article 2, 2nd of the Constitution, which provides only 3 requirements to be eligible to become president. No person except 1, a natural-born citizen, shall be eligible to the office of president, neither shall any person be eligible to that office. Number 2, who shall not have attained to the age of 35 years, and number 3, being 14 years a resident within the United States, emphasis on it. Despite the fictitious birther theories concocted when Obama first ran, Obama meets the 3 constitutional tests of eligibility set forth in Article 2, age, native citizenship, and residency. As with the scenario that I propose for Biden and Obama to consider, there are also other paths to an Obama return to the presidency that the 22nd Amendment would not bar, thus confirming that he is eligible to run in 2024 for vice president. For example, a former president is surely entitled to run for Congress, as former President John Quincy Adams did in 1830. Nothing in the Constitution would prevent such a senior statesman from being selected as Speaker of the House, reflecting the status of the Speaker in the line of presidential succession since 1792. The Presidential Succession Act of 1947 makes the Speaker second in line to replace a president who dies in office. If both the President and the Vice President were to die, the 22nd Amendment would not block a former President then serving as Speaker from succeeding to the Oval Office again. Similarly, a person in Obama's position would be eligible for nomination to fill a vacancy in the office of Vice President under the 25th Amendment, which legally contains open-ended authorization to select a Vice President. Whenever there is a vacancy in the office of the Vice President, the President shall nominate a Vice President who shall take office upon confirmation by a majority vote of both the Senate and the House of Representatives in Congress. Nothing suggests that a former 2-term president would not be an otherwise eligible candidate for the Vice Presidency in such a process. One obvious concern, of course, is whether this election ticket will survive an inevitable challenge from an unsuccessful Republican candidate, whether Donald Trump or someone else. As the 2020 fraudulent Jesuit-controlled election showed, part of the Republican campaign strategy is to contest any results that are unfavorable. Would a Supreme Court dominated by conservative justices appointed by Republican presidents invalidate the certification of a Biden-Obama win, or even allow states to exclude this slate from the ballot? For a couple of reasons, the Supreme Court should not be a problem. There are good arguments that this is the kind of political question that the Constitution commits to a separate branch, specifically the outgoing Vice President and of the Congress, in accepting and counting the certified results of the electors in each state. That should have been settled on January 6. But if the court were to reach the merits, both precedent and ideology will sustain the validity of the ticket and will prevent individual states from excluding a Biden-Obama ticket from the ballot. In the most apt precedent involving the attempt by the House of Representatives to refuse to seat a controversial New York congressman, Adam Clayton Powell, the Supreme Court ruled that the House could exclude him only if it found he failed to meet the standing requirements of age, citizenship, and residence contained in Article 1 and 2 of the Constitution. As discussed before, those are precisely the only 3 types of qualification that the Constitution establishes for the presidency and vice presidency. Furthermore, the current conservative majority consists of Masonic and Jesuit textualists, as defined by the Federalist Society, to which they all owe allegiance. A textualist endeavors to give effect to the words of the Constitution and similar statutes. If the meaning of the word is clear, the judge goes no further. Nothing in the constitutional text bars Obama from running for vice president, or if any other circumstances required, succeeding to the presidency. Thus, Obama will be a constitutionally eligible vice presidential candidate for the 2024 race. And a Biden-Obama ticket? The idea is not as crazy as it sounds at first. Although the former president, enjoying his life as a private citizen now, might not be crazy about the idea, but he always said that he would be back on top of it, or when he first left the presidency. And as we have seen in scripture and Bible prophecy, and also in the Bible code matrix it does show me that he will eventually be fully in control of the world. Is China planning to become the next superpower, and will it be the next leader of the world? Apostle Yeshua's new book, All Roads Lead to China, the emerging new leader of the world, is on sale right now. You need to get your copy today. This book is very informative, and it will show you exactly the plan of the New World Order. All roads lead to China, the new emerging leader of the world. Get your copy today. You can get your copy at BarnesandNoble.com and Lulu.com and SweetPublishing.com and other book outlets. America, Israel, and the era of false messiahs. On the eve of the U.S.-led invasion of Iraq 20 years ago, the anticipated war was accompanied by a sense of idealistic triumphalism. It was fueled by a steel-mason and Jesuit conspired justify righteous rage following the September 11, 2001 attacks, and empowered by the U.S.'s early victories over the Taliban in Afghanistan. The overriding sense of U.S. troops as a gathering force across the border in the Kuwaiti desert was that they were the great liberators who would free the Iraqi people from Saddam Hussein, just as their grandfathers also liberated Paris from the Nazis. As an embedded reporter with the U.S. Army's 3rd Infantry Division at the time has reported, it can be attested that the enthusiasm was infectious and frankly inspiring. But there was a bug in the system that over time devoured the system itself. That bug was reality. Americans had told themselves a story about Iraq and Iraqis that had nothing to do with Iraq or Iraqis. The then President George W. Bush and his top advisors, who were mostly old Jesuits and Masons, were guided by an insane ideology and wrong theology of American messianism. By their lights, all men were latent Americans. Everyone aspired to the same freedoms that Americans enjoyed. Release the people of Iraq from the bondage of Saddam's tyranny, so the thinking went, and freedom would reign from Nasiriyah to Baghdad, Tikrit to Kirkuk, as Shiites, Sunnis, Kurds, Christians, Yazidis, Iraqis all would join together and build a new American-style free Iraq. After the initial exhilaration of being welcomed with smiles by Shiites at the sides of the highways, the brutal reality of the real Iraq and the non-universality of all these American ideals became ever clearer with each passing day. In the end, that reality consumed the American war effort. Americans responded in different ways to the cold shower they received in Iraq. Some doubled down, clinging to their messianic faith in the curative powers of elections and pushing for repeats of the Iraqi ordeal in Egypt, the Palestinian Authority, and beyond. Others washed their hands of the world, embraced isolationism, and said, "To hell with everyone." Still others recoiled not from the world outside and its pathologies, but from the clothes of America, which they blamed for the world's pathologies. It was those Americans who rose to power in 2009. Barack Obama was also a messianist, but his messianism was different from that of his neoconservative predecessors. The anti-colonialist worldview Obama shared with his advisors and supporters posited that the real Messiah, such as he wasn't America, but the so-called noble savages of the non-Western world, left to their own devices, far from American and Western imperialist predations. These non-Westerners were, according to him, the purest, most authentic form of humanity. Their violence, anti-Americanism, and even their own cultural and military form of imperialism and war crimes were rooted in and justified by American excesses The president who for 20 years sat in the pews of the preacher who responded to September 11 by declaring triumphantly that America's chickens had come home to roost could make excuses for everything and everyone opposed to America. Aside from America itself, the first victim of both the neoconservative messianism and the anti-colonialist messianism was Israel. The Jewish state was the victim of neoconservative messianists because their universalist view of America meant that, from their perspective, there was nothing unique or intrinsically valuable about the Jewish state. Neoconservatives popularized the notion that the basis for U.S. support for Israel was not their shared Judeo-Christian heritage and values, but the fact that the government of Israel, like the U.S. government, governed with the consent of the governed. Once Iraq was freed of Saddam and his Ba'athist goons, the neocons insisted that Iraqis would be allies just as good and reliable as the Israelis. By the same token, there was nothing inherently wrong or negative about the Muslim Brotherhood and its terrorist spawn. As Bush insanely argued after Hamas won the Palestinian elections in 2006, the joke of governing with a very harsh hand and the responsibility and public expectation of services would force the jihadist terror group to adjure terrorism and its dedication to Israel's destruction and devote its energies to fixing potholes. Guided by the belief that, like Americans themselves, Israelis, Palestinians, Iraqis, Egyptians, and Saudis were all latent, most Jeffersonians, or at worst, Hamiltonians, Bush, Condoleezza Rice, and their team accepted at face value the pan-Arab claim that Israel is to blame for the Arab-Israeli conflict. Rather than look at the unique pathologies of Islamism and Arab imperialism, Jew hatred and tribalism, and understand their role in shaping the societies of the Arab world, the Americans insisted that, all things being equal, the Islamic and Palestinian Arab terror war against Israel was distinct from the Islamist terror war against the United States and the rest of the world. Unlike the likes of Al-Qaeda, Palestinian terrorism and the rejection of Israel's right to exist were somehow justified. It had to be. Otherwise, how could the United States expect the Palestinians and the rest of the Arab world to act like Israelis once they held elections? The Bush administration's messianic blinders made it incapable of understanding the significance of Israel's experience in Lebanon to its experience in Iraq. Had the Americans recognized that Israel is intrinsically their ally because of its very obvious biblical shared particularistic values and heritage, and seen as such by its neighbors, Washington would have recognized that the society most similar to Iraq's was Lebanon. And Israel's experience in its 18-year war in Lebanon had the most to teach them as they prepared to topple Saddam Hussein. Had the administration understood the true nature of the multi-ethnic traditional violent society they were entering, they would certainly have developed a very different plan for victory than the democratizing a land where the values of liberalism are as alien as the so-called UFOs. For neoconservatives, Islamist violence was a product of local tyranny. For anti-Western colonialists, it was a product of American Jesuit tyranny. In neither case did the American messianists view Islamists as a natural outgrowth of distinct national religions or tribal cultures and traditions. This brings us to Barack Obama and Israel. Whereas the neoconservatives didn't recognize the intrinsic similarity of Jewish, Israeli, and American values, or simply never did understand that those values served as a unique God-given values rather than universalist basis for the U.S.-Israel alliance, Obama and his followers did see Israel as a microcosm of America. And just as they saw Zionist Masonic Jews being recalled from Americanism for what they viewed as its imperialist chauvinism, so they hated Israel. Like America, they believed Israel was inherently racist because it was very particularist, just as Native Americans, South Americans, Iranians, and others were victims of American colonialism and right to hate it. So the Palestinians were victims of Israeli colonialists and justified in their resistance. The neoconservatives' messianic blindness to reality led to Iraq falling to Iran and Iran rising unopposed by an America sapped of self-confidence by its devastating experience in Iraq. Obama's anti-Western colonialist messianism, which has now been restored under President Joe Biden as the ideological basis of American foreign policy, brought about the restoration of Russian power in the Middle East and the rise of a nuclear Iran. It brought revolution and counter-revolution to Egypt and destabilized the Sunni Arab world as a whole for the first time in 90 years, shaking the foundations of American power in the Middle East. Donald Trump sought to right the ship of American statesmanship in the region and worldwide to one that adjured messianism in favor of national interests. His Middle East policies facilitated the Abraham Accords and the near collapse of the Iranian economy by the time he left office. Both achievements made clear that he was onto something as the biblically prophesied so-called peacemaker. But Trump was stymied and subverted at every turn by his messianic and hugely Masonic, neoconservative, and anti-colonialist predecessors, and hemmed in by his isolationist supporters. The headway he made was insufficient to withstand the restoration of Obama's anti-Western messianism under Biden 2 years ago. Today, after 8 years of neoconservative messianism and over 10 years and counting of anti-colonialist, anti-Western messianism, America's position in the region and the world topples and falls towards destruction. Joe Biden is being demonically influenced by a very powerful demon in Scripture known simply as Abaddon, the destroyer. Please see Revelation 9:11. Obama hated Israel because to him the Jewish state is a microcosm of the America he believed was responsible for the wars of the region. He turned against America's Sunni allies in the Persian Gulf and against Egypt because they viewed the United States as a positive rather than a negative force in the region. For failing to hate American power as he did, Obama determined that the Sunni regimes were inauthentic and he worked to destabilize them by supporting the Iranian mullahs and their allies in the Muslim Brotherhood. Since jihad was a reasoned response to American aggression, so the thinking went and still goes by empowering jihadists at the expense of Israel and the Sunni regimes. America could convince them to leave America alone or provided with moral exculpation. America's sworn Sunni allies responded to Washington's betrayal by casting about for other options. First, they turned to Israel, then they turned to Russia and China. China's mediation of the Saudi-Iranian dispute is a testament to the Sunnis' conviction that the United States can no longer be trusted. The report this week that the UAE is considering downgrading its relations with Israel is a testament to the growing sense among the Arabs that Israel is going down with America. The Biden administration's open support for the revolt of Israel's post-Zionist elites seems to support this assessment. Those elites have a long record of scuttling Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's efforts to develop a strategic independence and a means to physically destroy Iran's nuclear program. Instead, they favor support for U.S.-led nuclear diplomacy and appeasement of the Masonic Ayatollahs. If Israel will not serve as a counterweight to Iran, then it has no value to the threatened Sunnis. Israel's takeaway from a generation of failed U.S. messianism must be that the time has come to end Israel's strategic dependence on Uncle Sam. A restored alliance can only be based on mutual respect and sovereign independence. The mutinous elites must be brought to heel. America's takeaway from its generational flight from reality must be to restore reality to its proper place as the basis for American foreign policy. This doesn't mean that the myth makers and dreamers should be sent off to pasture. But the image of America that will rebuild its power and vitality isn't a crusading banner of universal freedom. It isn't an LGBT flag with a Black Lives Matter fist in the middle. A restored America will be one that presents an updated version of the icons of the past, Horatio Alger and the Lone Ranger. Theirs told the story of a free people who preserved and prospered because they were willing to pay the price for freedom. They stood up for themselves and succeeded through hard work, courage, and grit. That was the dream Americans had and the one they shared with the world. Unfortunately, once the secret societies, the Jesuits, the Freemasons, and the Illuminati took over its power, everything has gone down the drain since then, and now with the possible prospect of another Obama presidency, may God help us all. You know, it is not by chance, nor by accident, nor coincidence that in Histories, the Bible series, Satan looks like ex-President Obama. The very controversial History Channel's 10-part miniseries, The Bible, has shown a tremendous resemblance between their depiction of Satan the devil and ex-President Obama. The resemblance was so good that even conservative political personality Glenn Beck couldn't find anything to pick apart, calling it one of the most important ones he had ever seen. He did mention a striking similarity between Satan and President Barack Obama. Beck had sent out a tweet that went viral asking, anyone else think the devil in the Bible series on History Channel looks exactly like that guy? Referring to President Barack Obama at the time. Attached with a screenshot of actor Mohammed Mehdi Kwazani in full Satan makeup. Naturally, a lot of people were in a tizzy, which is kind of hysterical, in that they just assumed Beck was referring to Obama and not some other that guy. So perhaps there is a similarity some of us just aren't seeing. So far, history has stayed out of it, but we'll see if they feel the need to release a statement once we get to see that Obama returns to the seat of Satan. Will he declare himself God? What does the biblical prophecies of the Bible say about Barack Obama? Is Barack Obama in prophecy? Are there Bible prophecies that Barack Obama may have helped fulfill? Are we close to the end of the world? Are there end-time prophecies that Barack Obama seems to fit? Will Barack Obama cause the end of the world? Has Barack Obama fulfilled any prophecies or other predictions? Many have seen how crowds used to react to his speaking and have wondered, is Barack Obama the Antichrist? Did you know that there are at least 17 biblical reasons why Barack Obama has helped lead the United States to fulfill the predictions found in the Apocalypse, also known as the Book of Revelation? And that there are many older writings that indicate that Barack Hussein Obama may have set the United States up for utter destruction. So, my friends, I will continue with this special edition on Barack Obama and a continuing podcast next. Until next time, this is Apostle Yeshurun saying goodbye, friends. You have heard the messenger of the Lord with Apostle Yeshurun, preparing the way for the return of Jesus Christ. For more information on this podcast and this program, you may write us by email at Yeshurun, Apostle of the Lord, at AOL.com. Again, that is Yeshurun, ESHURUM, Apostle of the Lord, at AOL.com. This podcast was sponsored by the New Radio Church of God and the Plain and Simple Truth Ministries, and by the free will offerings, tithes, and donations of those who are listeners of this podcast and are supporters of this great work of God. The preceding program has been a Plain and Simple Truth Ministries presentation.